Start training at ground zero, age 0. Start training your child at age 0. Training must begin at ground zero in the foundational stage of character molding, ages 0 to 7, to be most effective and lasting. Most parents do not start training their children from age 0. They presume that they are too small or not cognitively advanced enough to learn. This is just ignorance on the part of the parents. When the Bible says, "Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it," the child there refers to children from ages 0 to 7. This is the foundational stage of character molding. King Josiah was raised by his mother to fear and obey the Lord within this age period. He became king at age 8 as a godly child and never departed from the way of the Lord all the days of his life. 2 Kings 22, 1-2. 1 Josiah was 8 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 31 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Jedidah, the daughter of Adiah of Boskoth. 2. And he did that which was right in the sight of the Lord, and walked in all the way of David his father, and turned not aside to the right hand or to the left. The intellect of a child. Most parents do not really understand how intelligent a child is. They often view the child from an adult perspective, how much knowledge they have about things and their level of reasoning. Then they conclude that the child is just ignorant. Yes, they are correct that the child is ignorant. However, ignorance does not mean the child is unintelligent or cognitively impaired. It just means that the child doesn't know much. Obviously, the child does not know much. He just arrived in a new world and must be attentive to observe and learn various skills that will enable him to adapt to his new world. Just imagine yourself as an adult suddenly disappearing from this known world and finding yourself in an alien world. You will be confused and ignorant of all that is going on there. The aliens will also view you as just ignorant. However, this will not mean that you are unintelligent or cognitively impaired. It just means that you don't know much and need much data, knowledge, and time to understand things and adapt to your new world. Now, you are in this alien world, you do not understand their language and most things going on there. In this condition, all you will give attention to is learning, observing, and processing everything you see to gain some understanding. Imagine how much more you would learn things properly if any alien were kind enough to give you attention and sacrifice time to teach you things in proper decorum. This is the condition that newborns find themselves in. Though they do not know much, ignorant, they are not unintelligent or cognitively impaired. The children are eager to observe and learn. All they need is an adult who will be kind enough to give them attention and teach them decorum and godliness. Early years psychology says, "Give me the child until he is 7 years old, and I will make him what you want him to be." This psychology says ages 0 to 7 are a child's formative years, character, molding-wise. Everything else we do to mold a child's character after they turn 7 cannot be foundational and may not last. The philosophy is, the earlier, the better. Early years psychology says a child's formative years are from 0 to 7 years. Anything after that cannot be foundational and will likely not last. And this is where many Christian parents fail. They neglect training their children in their formative years, thinking they are too young to be taught the things of God or the principles of life. Then, when the children grow up astray, they start blaming the children and often abuse them in their effort to correct them. When I was in Nigeria, there was a period when I lived with an uncle who later traveled abroad for greener pastures. I was then living with his wife and newly born daughter. I noticed that his wife was very lenient with their daughter to a fault. When their daughter started crawling, I observed that her mother removed all the ceramic decorations or breakable things in the living room. She removed anything in the living room that she thought her daughter could break or destroy. I often corrected her and advised her to teach her daughter to adapt to her environment and make her understand what to touch and what not to touch. But she will always say that her daughter was just a child. I was busy most days and did not spend much time at home. But when I did, I made sure I trained this little girl. If she crawls to the TV or to any other property that is not right for her to play with and touches it, I would gently spank her little fingers and change the countenance on my face. Then she would look at my face, and, of course, it wasn't pleasant. Then she would start crying. Boundaries, at least whenever I was at home. She was able to learn at about 7 months when she was still crawling that there are boundaries in life. She was smart enough to learn that there are things she should not do and places she should not go. If I happened to be in the living room and she crawled to the TV or to any other place I had forbidden her, or where she was not sure if she was allowed to go to or touch. She would stop, turn, and look at me to see the expression on my face. If I changed my countenance to a frown, she would understand that she is not supposed to touch it or crawl further. She will immediately change direction and move on to something else. But if I smile at her, she will smile back and continue with her intended business. The little girl learned discipline and to reverence me from the gentle redirection and training that I gave her at that tender age. By the time she was 6 years old, having been under my discipline and training, she learned to obey me in everything. Whenever I ask her to stop or sit down, she knows to do so immediately. She took all of my instructions seriously. But for her mother, she had no reverence for her. Before her mother could finish giving her an instruction, she would object with no. Then her mother would pounce on her with her hands in anger, forgetting that she did not train her correctly in the first place. She had trained her daughter not to fear or reverence her, and taught her that there are no boundaries in life without saying a word. She trained her daughter to be stubborn and rebellious to her, without intending to do so. She kidified her daughter without calling her kid, goat. This stresses the fact that you could still kidify a child without calling them a kid, goat. Whenever parents view their child from the perspective that he or she is just a child, as an excuse for not disciplining them early and promptly, it is the same with he's just a kid, goat mentality. The only difference is that they did not refer to the child as a kid, goat. Nonetheless, their mentality is still the same, a goat-like skewed perspective that the child is too young to be trained. Whenever parents fail to train their children appropriately at the foundational stage, they have unknowingly succeeded in training them to be stubborn and rebellious. They have created a vacuum for the death-giving goat spirit to enter their children, the spirit of stubbornness and rebellion. The parents themselves have become tools in the hands of Satan to kidify their children. Now that her daughter has grown to be 6 years old, without any foundational training from her, she was now trying to set boundaries and exercise authority over her daughter. Her actions left her daughter confused instead of learning anything. The girl knew there were no boundaries with her growing up, and her thoughts would be, how come mom is acting like this now? How come she is now saying you cannot do this or that? What has come over her? This is why she was rebellious to her mother. Her mom wanted to reap what she did not sow in her. She wasted her opportunity to train her daughter and discipline her during the foundational years, claiming she was just a child. Unknowingly to her, she was a kidifying agent in the hands of Satan for the kidification of her daughter. Children are intelligent and smart, even from a very tender age. Take, for example, a child who is still breastfeeding. Most often when they start developing their first teeth, their mother's nipples are in trouble. If the child bites her nipple and she claims he is just a child, the child will keep biting. However, the child will remember not to do it again if the mother corrects him with a gentle smack a few times. The child will quickly learn that biting mom while sucking is not an acceptable behavior. Children from 0 to 7 do not know much. They are ignorant, nevertheless. They are intelligent. They are like empty containers that will accept whatever their parents pour into them. Therefore, pour godly training into their lives and leave no vacuum for Satan to kidify them. Training must begin at ground zero, at the foundational stage of ages 0 to 7, to be most effective and lasting. Early years psychology says, give me the child until he is 7, and I will make him what you want him to be. This psychology says ages 0 to 7 are the formative years of a child's life, that is, character molding-wise. Everything else parents do after age 0 to 7 to mold the character of a child cannot be foundational and may not last. The philosophy is, the earlier the better. This is secular psychology. The world and Satan understand this God-given natural principle and take due advantage of it. Proverbs 22:6. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. This is an excerpt from the book Principles of Raising Godly Children,